Welcome to Behind the Story, where we learn the story behind the story. I'm Naomi Craig, author of historical fiction, Rahab's Courage.
And my name's Lisa Renee from the Collaborative Press, and I'm also a contemporary romance author. So we have a wonderful interview coming up, an interesting one about biblical fiction. But first, we're just going to catch up. I wanted to know, Naomi, what are you up to?
Well, I don't know if you can see it very well, but I have a cover for Ezekiel's song. So that'll officially come out in August of 2022.
Awesome. Oh. That looks beautiful.
Thank you. I'm excited. I think it's a good combo. Like if you look at them as a series, you probably can't see that at all. But if you look at them together, as they look like they belong together. So I'm excited. Awesome. Well, how about you? What are you working on?
Oh, what am I working on? Okay, so at the moment, the box set Love, Faith and Tender Kisses has gone live. So all the reviews are getting put up this week. And then just as we're recording this weekend, I'm going away from my own little writer's retreat to just smash out some words for my rom-com book 3 that I'm doing. About Time You Notice. So, and it's really cool. I booked it, and then I realized a moment after, when I sort of went on Google Maps to sort of see where it was, that it's at an equestrian center, and my MC is does equine therapy. So that's really cool. So I'm going to get some inspiration. I'm going to be right there smelling the horses. Sit on a rocking chair on the veranda or sit on the porch and wave away the flies and
perfect.
get the feel of it. Now it has a nice like claw bath and tub inside. It's got aircon and all this kind of stuff. It's hot in Australia at the moment, so yeah, I'll have some nice me time as well. But it'll be good to go for walks on the property and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
that'll be so nice. And if you're listening and you're not familiar, MC stands for main character.
Okay, yes, that's true. We sometimes get into a little bit of a lingo, don't we?
That's right.
Okay. Well, on our last show, we had rom-com author Summer Dow, and so we are sending an announcement of who won her ebook, and that was lots of fun. So if you haven't seen that interview, that was just a quick one, and subscribe to our channel and then you'll catch up and make sure you don't miss any of our interviews.
So today our guest is biblical fiction author Barbara M. Britton. She lives in Southeast Wisconsin and loves the snow when it accumulates under 3 inches. She loves bringing little known Bible characters to light in her stories. Barb has also published a World War I historical Until June. Barb has a nutrition degree from Baylor University, but loves to dip healthy strawberries in chocolate. Barb, thank you so much for joining us on Behind the Story.
Thank you for having me. I am happy to be here.
Awesome. So for those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about you and your writing.
I am a Wisconsin author. I have been married for over 30 years. I have 2 sons who are grown. They're in their 20s. And I love to teach about and write about the Bible. And that is why I write a lot of biblical fiction, because when I find something new in the Bible that I haven't really read before or remembered, I like to write about that story and bring it to light for others.
And I know that's been so challenging and refreshing for me to see. I love reading your books, Barb. I'm so glad you're here. Your latest release, Defending David, Attay's Journey, came out on February 25 of 2022. The tagline is, "Can an orphaned woman and a Philistine exile defend an aging king who cannot control a rebellious son?" So an excellent book. Tell us about this book and what sparked the story.
Well, my husband was preaching a sermon on friends who stick closer than brothers. And he mentioned Itai the Gittite as a friend to King David during Absalom's rebellion. And you would think I would have gone home and written the story right away, but it was about a year. And then I was reading through the Bible and I noticed Ittai again. And I remembered that sermon. And I thought, this would make a great novel, because you have King David, you have this Philistine warrior who knows God and is aligned with David. And David gives him, a command. So I thought, I'm going to write that. And that's how Defending David came about. And then I put in a romantic character for Ittai named Ramona, and then rotated the point of views. And it was interesting because most of my book covers have women in veils on them. And this one ended up with bulging bicep Philistine warrior. So he's a little bit different, but I just loved writing his story and learning about him. And so I hope readers will enjoy Ittai and Ramona as much as I enjoyed writing them.
Yeah, and if you can see here, he's definitely got a different feel than a veiled lady. And one thing that I appreciate through your books is that you stay true to like I don't know, it's not even the culture, it's just the laws, like the cleanliness laws and stuff that you're bringing in. And that's so challenging too, because that's different point of view from what we're used to for sure, but definitely some part of the holiness journey that they went through. So I really appreciate how you hold through to even like staying outside of the camp for 7 days, until you're clean from battle. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, thank you. And a lot of people, don't have a lot of Bible knowledge, and that's getting into the culture. A lot of people don't really understand that. So it takes a lot of research and reading about that time period to make it understandable to readers.
For our viewers, for our listeners, if you are familiar with Itai the Gittite, drop a number 1 in the comments. If you remember him, if you're familiar with that, or drop a number 2 if you kind of remember Absolam and the rebellion, but didn't remember about Ittai. And then a number 3 if you are heading to your Bible right now in 2 Samuel 15 through 19 to check out the story here.
Yes, I'm probably putting up and checking out Samuel. But I really appreciate these obscure characters. So also comment if you like these biblical fiction and when people exploring these characters that you don't know about. I really appreciate it when Naomi does that. So back to you. Where are your books set?
Well, most of my biblical fiction is set in ancient Israel or what we would know as the Middle East today. I did write a historical that was set in Alaska on a remote island, but most of them are going to be you're traveling around near Jerusalem or is what we would know as Israel, the promised land. I haven't been to Israel yet. My older son went, and he's fed me all these pictures, but I haven't been to Israel. That's on my bucket list.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be amazing. So do you have a common theme that runs through all of your books?
Most of my books, God is active and alive, just like he is in our lives today. And especially if you're writing Old Testament, Exodus time period where God was physically there, with the ark, and the people saw his miracles, the parting of the Jordan River. So I use a lot of themes such as like God is in control, even in the chaos of life. Or when I did the Daughters of Zelophehad, it was go forth with God. So God is very active in my characters' lives, and just like he's active in our lives today. So, I have a lot of books that are heavily focused on God. In fact, I think one reader said, God's almost every page. And I was like, well, yeah, and some of these stories, like he was there all the time. Yeah. Just like we have the Holy Spirit and he's with us all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. If you like strong characters and strong heroines, this is the author for you here for sure.
Definitely. And if you're going to pick up a biblical fiction, you'd hope there's a lot of God in it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just a bit more about yourself. Where are you actually from, or where you're living now?
I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and now I live in Wisconsin, and I've been here for 20 years. So I've lived longer in Wisconsin than I have any other state that I've lived in. And I love Wisconsin, even though the winters can be a little challenging with the snow and the ice and the frigid temperatures, but you really get to see the 4 seasons here. And I love the fall, but I'll take the snow. I'm getting more used to snow and colder temperatures over the years. So it's a beautiful state. I love living here. So yeah, Wisconsin is now my new home.
And do you have a favorite country? Have you been traveling much? What's your favorite country?
Well, my dad was Canadian. So as a girl, we lived in California. Every summer we would hop in the station wagon and drive to Canada so we could visit his family. And that was something we did every year. And I remember it just being so unique, like Canada has a different flag and different money. We used to have to get Canadian money, and just that we ate M&Ms and they had Smarties, and just the little differences between the two countries. Yet we just drove right over the border. Well, actually, we took a ferry too. But I would have to say, to be loyal to my family members that are living there, it would be Canada.
Excellent. Yeah, I can't wait to visit Canada. And I remember doing a school project on the Canadian flag when I was in little. Yeah, just finding out more about them because, they're very similar to Australia, have our English spelling and UK spelling and currency and things like that. So it just seems weird for me because it feels like you guys, it's all connected officially, but it's so different.
Yeah, but I think if we say that we're the same, I think that probably offends some Canadians because they like to be different,
definitely. If I say to a Canadian, "Are you from America?" They're like, "No, I'm from Canada." So, okay. So I've got to learn the accent. Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. So what's something people will be surprised to learn about you?
When I was growing up in California, I was very active in 4-H. And one of the things we got to do, because we were near Guide Dogs for the Blind, which was headquartered in San Rafael, California, through dog training classes, we got to raise puppies for Guide Dogs for the Blind. So we would get a puppy, we'd have it for about a year, and we'd have to train it a certain way for a blind person. And then after a year, it would go back to Guide Dogs for the Blind, and they would do more training with the dog. And if it passed all this training, it would be a dog for a blind person. Otherwise, if it didn't, you got the option of getting the dog back. But if you continued to raise dogs, you would end up with a lot of dogs. So they had a waiting list for people who would take these dogs if the trainer did not want to take them back. So I trained a black lab. My sister trained a golden retriever, and they also used yellow labs and German shepherds. So, and I would say the yellow labs were probably the most docile of the group. Yeah. So black labs are probably the most hyper.
Oh, okay. So. Yeah, I love those dogs. If I was going to ever get a dog, I've too many cats, but anyway, I like the dogs.
I have cats now, but yeah, I love dogs too.
Oh, and
that's really cool.
Gorgeous puppies, aren't they? They're just so cute.
Yeah.
I always thought my dog has the temperament to be like a medical therapy dog, but we just haven't had the time to do anything with it. I wish we had, though. But there's a huge need for that.
They have to be very calm, and that was one of the things. They would train the dogs, and they would do loud noises, and the dog couldn't freak out because, if it ran away, then it leaves the blind person without a guide.
Yeah. Yeah. He does fine with humans. He loves humans. He just doesn't do so great with other dogs. So that's probably a best.
Yeah, that's
Best
one of the
choice.
things. They have to get along with other dogs. They can't
Yeah.
pick fights. Yeah.
Yeah. So what inspired you to start writing? How many books do you have out now?
Defending David will be my 8th.
Excellent.
And I have to say that I would say prayer, but I was teaching chapel to students, and it was the end of school year, and I had to write my own curriculum because I had kindergarten through 5th grade at one time. And so I just said a prayer to God, God, hit me with some creativity. And I did get my chapel lessons written. And then I had this prompting to sit down and write a story. And I guess I should have been more specific, like hit me with some creativity for my chapel lessons. But I got this prompting to sit down and write this story, and I did. It took me a year, but I wrote a sweet historical straight through. And I guess maybe God used the creativity that had been in my brain all those years, because I never really thought I would be an author. And that was 2007. I finished my first book in 2008, but it took me until 2015 to get my first contract, because I didn't know anything about the publishing business or how to write a book. And so I kept writing these stories, and they wouldn't sell until I wrote my 4th one, which was my first story about a takeoff of a Bible story, the servant girl and the story of Naaman.
Okay. So in that period of before you first started writing and then getting published, what was the best writing advice someone shared with you?
Well, when I finished that first manuscript and I was just like puzzled, like, what do I do? I took a weekend course at a local university on publishing. And the author told me to join a professional writing organization, which I did. At the time, it was Romance Writers of America. Now, because I'm more in the Christian publishing world, which I didn't know existed at the time, I'm in American Christian Fiction Writers. But then she also said to attend writing conferences. So I went to Madison, Wisconsin, and attended a writing conference and got to meet other writers and start learning the lingo and just learning the craft of writing and some of the business side of writing. So that's what I would tell anyone who wants to be a writer, get involved with other writers in these writing groups, so you can get critique partners, that you can learn how to craft a chapter, how to begin it, how to end it. And that really is valuable to start building your network of friends who understand writing, understand the lingo, can be your support system throughout your writing journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so huge. It's such a blessing when you find the right people. And I know I'm thankful for our group, because the Lord just brought us together at the right time. And it's great to see everyone sharing their strengths and working together and encouraging each other. That's really cool. So do you read your book reviews? How do you deal with the bad ones?
I say not every book is for every reader. So I do read my reviews, and you have to have a thick skin, but especially, because we write biblical fiction, Naomi and I, some people are avid biblical fiction readers. Other people will pick it up and try it, but it may not be for them, because we do have hard names to pronounce if you're being true to certain Bible characters. And it is a different time and place. So some people love reading it. Some people, it's harder for them to read. And for that reason, they might not give it a 5-star review. So I just look at them and try and learn and glean from them. And you have to have a thick skin. I did receive an email one time, and I will tell people, it's fine to critique a book if you don't like it, but don't call into question somebody's faith. So I had an email one time where someone was like, I read your book and it was like 50 Shades of Gunmetal Gray, and you can't be a Christian. And I was really shocked and a little hurt. And then I thought, and I just extended grace. And I emailed them back and said, I'm so sorry. And, I'd be happy to send you a book that doesn't have much romance in it, but they never responded. So don't make it personal. I mean, you may not like the story or the plot, the characters, that's fine. Just never attack an author.
Yeah, so they didn't like the romance elements in the biblical fiction. Is that what the complaint
Right.
was? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I see, some biblical fiction, and yeah, there is, some people do put a bit of romance, which I like. I write romance, so I like that. But I think in most genres, like even all the movies and everything, there's often a little tiny bit of a romance thread, and that's because that's life, isn't it? Like
and I love a romance thread. I'm always drawn to that. I'm always looking to where I can put a romance thread in, but some people aren't as keen on a romance thread.
Well, that's great. That's great advice, and having a thick skin. And it is, finding your reader, and it's not for everyone. As an author, what's the best money you've ever spent investing
I would
into
say
your writing career?
Joining a professional writing organization and getting involved in the local chapter. That was key to make friends that lived near me so that I could get together with them and write and do writing sprints and have boutique partners and just have that support system. And I always tell people that are starting out, whether they get, whether they go the indie route or whether they're traditionally published, to always start saving money and putting it away in a little fund for when you do get published. Because today the author takes on a lot of expenses, even in traditional publishing. And definitely the author takes on all the expenses in indie publishing. But I'm traditionally published, but I still spend money on bookmarks and mailing out books to blog winners and website upkeep, you name it. There's always things that you're going to be spending money on. So if you are on this journey to eventually get a book published, start putting money away. You'll be glad you did when the expenses come up for promoting yourself as an author and your books.
That's excellent advice. So how do you find your faith impacting your writing? We see a lot of the God is with us in your books, but how does the Lord work through you through certain topics as you're writing it?
I always pray before I write, and I ask that the Holy Spirit will help me write to the best of my ability. And sometimes when I finish a book, I look back over it and I said, how on earth did I do this? And it's a God thing. And with God, I always say to him and pray, what do you want me to say in this book? I mean, I'm telling a story, your stories. I always say God has the best storylines, but what more do you want me to say? There's always theology behind a Bible story, but what more do you want me to say? Or with my historical, or I just finished a contemporary story, what is the purpose of the story? What do you want me to say to the reader? And so it's always tied in with God, hoping that my story will touch somebody, not only to grow their faith, but maybe to encourage them, or maybe to help them decide if they're praying about something in their life. So I would say, when you're writing Christian fiction, the faith is just so intertwined. Your personal faith and just writing from a Christian worldview is so intertwined in what you do as an author.
So what's my writing advice? Like you took a few years, like most authors do, take a few years to find their groove and, where they fit and everything. So if you could speak to yourself, in that first year when you started writing, what advice would you give to a new author?
I would go back and I would tell myself, you better know the genre that you're writing and the word count, and where is this book going to go in the bookstore. So if you're writing, say, a contemporary romance, you need to know what the word count is, 80 or 90,000 words, right? Don't write a 30,000 page romance and expect to be able to sell it. So I definitely, I thought I was writing a sweet historical for my first book, but it was 45,000 words when I finished. Well, historicals are way, almost double that. So I had no concept of word count. And, if you're writing like today for Harlequin Love Inspired, it's 55,000 to 56,000 words, not 80, not 30. So you really have to know the word count of the genre you're writing. And then, you can't go in and pitch an agent or an editor and say, I'm writing suspense with a little romance and some mystery. They're going to look at you and like, it can't be in 3 places in a bookstore. You're either writing a mystery or you're writing a suspense novel or you're writing a romance. So you really have to know your genre and your word count if you're gonna, get somebody interested in it. And you have to know what you're writing so that the readers have expectations in certain genres. So in romance, a reader expects that book to end happily ever after or happy for now if you're writing for teens. And so if you're writing a romance and it doesn't have a happy ending, it's not a romance. And if you try and sell it as a romance, you will get those 1 and 2 star reviews because all your readers will be like, it didn't end happily ever after. So you really have to know the type of book you're writing, what word count it should be in order to give it a better chance to sell in the publishing world.
Now, talking on that, your books are actually a little bit short for historical biblical fiction, wouldn't you say? Or how do you justify that?
They are. And I really didn't know much about the word count when I pitched those. And I always say I came in the back door of publishing through a mentoring program. And I have pitched books when I was first starting out. After my first book sold, I went to an ACFW conference and I pitched my second book to try and get like an agent or editor. And I was told, you write biblical fiction, you write short. There's no place for you in Christian publishing. Now, fortunately, I had a book contract already. Thinking back, if I didn't have that contract and I went to that conference and someone told me that could have been very devastating. So there was a place for me. I just would never have been picked up by a huge publisher because they want at least 80,000 words. But there was a place for me at Pelican Book Group with a smaller publisher. So, and smaller publishers will take things that maybe aren't quite in a certain box. And it's good to have small publishers out there that will do that. So yeah, I tend to write short. That's, I would love to write longer, but I tend to write on the shorter side. In fact, Defending David is the longest book I have written, and that is 67,000 words. So yeah, I don't know why I can't seem to break 70, 80,000 with my books.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be for people like me who do like reading shorter novels. I would be like, oh yeah, that looks good. Yeah. Sometimes to read a really huge one that take me a whole week to get through, I sort of like to get through in a couple of days. So yeah, that'll be my kind of biblical fiction. Sorry, Naomi. I have to put a week aside for her books.
As long as you slog through and find the time, it's
yeah, because Naomi's book is pretty long. In fact, it's back there on the biblical fiction book pile, and it's thicker than some of the other ones.
Oh yeah, it's impressive.
Bigger than mine.
Well, that one, actually, the first printing of it too had like the pre-order short story attached to it. So it's even longer. It's like over 500 pages. So what do you find is your best marketing strategy, Barb?
Well, I took a webinar because now, since we've been in the pandemic, a lot of things have gone to Zoom, and I took this webinar on publicity, and this woman said, publicity is free, marketing is what you pay for. So if I'm talking about what I actually spend money on, that I would say I would do with every book launch or for every one of my books, and that is I buy an Amazon ad, and I can do that through my publisher. I buy an Amazon ad to run a few days after my book launches. And I do that with every book just to get it out there. But like publicity, the best thing for publicity is to know authors and readers in your genre or in Christian fiction. And they go to their social media and they say, hey, I like this book. And they post reviews for you and they put your cover out in front of their following. And that's free, but it's publicity. And that just gets a wider reach. And Naomi's great for doing that. She makes all these cute things with my book cover. And I'm not very techie, but Naomi makes all these wonderful things, and she puts it out on social media. And that helps me as an author because we have a lot of readers in common. And that just comes from knowing people, getting to know people in the industry through writing organizations or just through like Facebook groups. So there's a lot of things you can do, but the connection with other people in your genre or under the Christian fiction umbrella is huge, just to have that network of people that are shouting out your book when it goes live, or if you're having a sale or whatever.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate all your help on my end too. So it's definitely teamwork. So what do you have coming up next? What's after Defending David?
Well, I'm actually going more in Lisa's area here I just finished a contemporary story, and it was something where I'm a breast cancer survivor. I survived 6.5 years post-cancer. So praise the Lord for that. I always say every day is a blessing. But this past year, I've had a couple people reach out to me and say, hey, Barbara, I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. Can you talk to me about your journey? And I felt God saying, hey, you need to write a book about all you've been through. And I was like, but that's not biblical fiction, and that's a heavy topic. So I actually ended up writing a contemporary romance. And the heroine was young and had breast cancer and went in for a mastectomy, and the reconstruction didn't work. She had an infection that had to be taken out. So then it's her story about having to wear a prosthetic, and how do you feel beautiful? How does your body image go with that? And how do you tell this new hot guy that you just met? And so, so I just finished that story. So it was a lot about my journey with cancer and body image and self-esteem and how God loves us and puts us together. And I couldn't really do a breast cancer story with biblical fiction. So I kind of hopped out of my genre for a little while and finished that story. I haven't sent it to my publisher yet because I just finished it. But we'll see where, if they want it, where it ends up.
Yeah, well, that sounds interesting. That sounds really great. And do you think it's a little bit more women's fiction, or you think it's right in the contemporary romance genre?
I wrote it as a contemporary romance.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's exciting. I think that story needs to be shared, and bless a lot of people. So and I really appreciate when there is, the characters are going through a journey or have gone through a journey, and there are some health issues because we have so many health issues going on, and it's bound to happen in some family member or our own lives. So and obviously the romance lightens everything up and gives you some hope. So makes it awesome. That's exciting. So how can readers connect with you and follow, what your progress, and is it best through social media or your newsletter? What's the best way to connect?
I have a website, barbaraandbritton.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter on my website. I put one out once a month, but I'm on social media under Barbara and Britton on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Goodreads, BookBub. I'm out there. So come and connect with me.
Thanks so much for joining us today on Behind the Story.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, we have lots of goodies linked for you in the comments. Barb is offering either a paperback for a US address or an ebook of Defending David. So be sure to get into the King Sumo. It's great odds and a great chance to get to know Barb and Itai the Gittite. Be sure to like this video, comment, and share with someone who you know likes biblical fiction. It's really fun to have these lesser known characters. So be sure to share this video and like and subscribe so you make sure you get the next episode of Behind the Story as soon as it drops.
Awesome. And if you are from the rom-com community, you like rom-coms, put in a comment below #Team Romcom, and be sure to download my free Christian rom-com novella. You can get that on audiobook or ebook, and it's called Fake Engagement Mistake.
And if you're here from the biblical fiction community or for our guests, Barbara and Britton, drop it in the comments below. #Team BibFic, my biblical fiction that I'm holding very awkwardly for this whole time is On Desolate Heights, and it is about Balaam and his talking donkey.
Awesome. So thank you again for joining us today on Behind the Story. Until next time, let us run with endurance the race set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. God bless and have a great week.